investor, all things ever wanted to know about short-term rentals. Give everyone a second to pause while we transition from cocktail hour. Well, thank you guys for coming out. Thank you, Paulina, for inviting us to meet your team and to share with your friends and investors. My name is Peter South. I'm the owner of iTrip Vacations Tempe, Phoenix. And
I'm Megan Rodriguez. I'm the owner of iTrip Vacations Mesa.
And so iTrip we're a full service property management company for short-term rentals. That's all we do. It's a national company franchised out. We're the owners here. There's about 150 markets, destinations nationwide with over 3,000 plus properties around the country. We're kind of known as a boutique level of service for both owners and for the guests. I would say I'm in the hotel business. Treat it like I'm running little hotels. We have pretty much the largest marketing platform in the short-term rental industry. iTrip's been around for about 15 years, and they spend a lot of money marketing properties for the owners. And last year, in the midst of all the COVID, over $200 million. So not a small chunk of change in the vacation industry. So we get this all the time. What's the difference? Long-term rentals versus short-term rentals. Long-term is anything that's over 30 days in the state of Arizona is how it's sort of categorized. So anything you're doing your lease over 30 days, it's considered long-term. Usually you get a monthly price and bring your own furniture for long-term rentals. You get taxed on a residential leasing tax rate, which is lower than the short-term tax rate, and landlord-tenant applies. So that means tenants get a lot of rights and landlords have a lot of responsibilities to the people that are living in their homes. Short terms is less than 30 days. It's a nightly rate, like a hotel rate, and usually furnished, almost always furnished, and then it gets subject to the hoteling taxes, and in the state of Arizona, it's really about 15% is the hoteling taxes, and it pays for fancy things like Cardinal stadiums and things like that. So thank you to the tourists for doing that for us. And innkeeper laws, which is a little different. You just have different rights as the owners when it comes to having guests. So this might be the number one question I guess. You guys are Airbnb? You're Airbnb? No, we're not Airbnb. Airbnb they're just an online booking platform like hotels.com or Kayak. It's just a marketplace for your rental to be booked. Airbnb has done a great job just becoming the catch-all phrase for short-term rentals like Kleenex or Xerox. That's kind of what it is. What it doesn't do, it doesn't own anything. It doesn't have properties. They don't do anything for the properties. They don't do any maintenance for the properties or schedule your landscapers or clean it or do your pool service. They don't get any cleaners for you, and they don't know anything about your property. They can't provide you customer service. If you're traveling, something goes wrong, you can't call Airbnb and say something's wrong with my property. They don't know anything about your property, and also they don't set the nightly rates of the property. They just give you the opportunity to set how much it's going to cost. That being said, Airbnb is awesome. We list our properties on Airbnb. Like 40% of my business comes from Airbnb, so I'm down. Airbnb is awesome. It's an easy way to talk about rentals. They're great. There's lots of other platforms. Vrbo, you probably heard of, or Booking.com. There are a ton of other sites that you can book homes on, but Airbnb and Vrbo are really the two biggest, but there are many other sites for that. So, since we're on Airbnb, what does Airbnb do? How are their properties managed? What happens on these properties on a local level so that you can get them listed and working practically?
Absolutely. So as you all are aware, rentals of any type need some management of some type, right? So there's a few different options you have when you have a short-term rental. You can do a DIY option, so you do it yourself, meaning that you're in charge of everything that happens at your property. You're going to be taking care of your listing and marketing for your property. You're going to be setting those nightly rates. You're going to be dealing with guest services, finding and hiring and scheduling the cleaners for the property in between guest stays. You're also on the backside going to be responsible for filing your monthly lodging taxes. So the taxes that Peter mentioned on short-term rentals, you have to file those monthly and remit taxes to the Arizona Department of Revenue. So you're very involved. It's very much an active income that you're gonna be receiving on the short-term rental side if you're DIYing yourself. And it takes much more time than people realize. So you're looking at 10 to 15 hours per week, really being committed to your property and responding to guests and handling all the things that come with that. And you're looking at 24/7 availability. So have kind of hard to go on vacation, I would say, when you have to be available 24/7 in case something goes wrong at your house. This is a really great option for people that use short-term rentals as a hobby for them. Maybe they really enjoy being part of the guest experience and building that. What can happen is a lot of people realize that they don't really like being called at 3 o'clock in the morning and having to get up to go respond because the police were called to their property or a guest locked himself out of the property, and that's when they decide, maybe this isn't the best management option for me. So then there's a hybrid option. So it's kind of like DIY. You can take some of the tasks of setting nightly rates and listing and marketing, or maybe the scheduling the cleaners and handling the guest services. You can assign that to somebody else to handle for you, but you're still responsible for managing and running your short-term rental. It all comes back to you. You're at the top. So again, this is more of an active income that you're going to be receiving by doing it in a hybrid model. And it's going to reduce your required time to about 5 to 10 hours per week. And you might have shared availability, 24/7 availability, if you decide to kind of outsource your guest services portion of that or your maintenance services. That's really great for people that still want to be involved. Maybe you have a full-time job and you think, oh, but I still want to do this on the side. Again, you run into the issue of, what if the water heater breaks? Well, if the water heater breaks or something that needs to be handled right away at your property like that, you have to drop everything and go to the house and take care of that because you have guests staying there and they are your number one priority. So too bad your kid's playing in the softball tournament, I gotta go to the house and I gotta take care of that today. For full service, that's your last option. So they're gonna handle everything for you. You have minimal involvement in there. This is gonna be much more of a passive income stream for you, which is what most investors are looking for, is to have that passive income stream. You get to sit back, relax, let the management company handle everything for you, and then you just get that check every month and you can go on vacation if you want, because you don't have to be available 24/7 anymore. They're available 24/7 for you, dealing with all of the issues that might arise. And you're only going to be committed to maybe an hour per month, which is equivalent to 15 minutes a week. And most of that is just going to be communication with the management company if anything occurs at the property that you need to be aware of. This is really a great option for people that still like to have a life where they can leave the area and not have to worry about anything concerning their rental.
Yeah, I agree with Megan on that. Your full-time job becomes, the hot water heater breaks, that's your full-time job. I did it for a long time, and that was my worst fear. When I had to fix something, and I had a million meetings and had kids, so full service, which was we are, boy, I wish I had me. I was so smart and had me a couple years ago. So what is this market all about? Can you make money? That's what my first question was. Can you really make money doing this? I always thought it was so risky to make money. Long-term rentals, safe. Short-term rentals, wild. So what's the market say about this? What's the facts? The data is the data. We can't argue with real numbers. So we're going to look at all these items. So nationwide, this year we're expected to increase nationally just over 15% from last year's level during the COVID. And sort of this urban market. Phoenix is like an urban-ish market, so maybe not 30% increase in Phoenix, but you're looking at a 20 to 30% increase in travelers coming into the Phoenix market this year alone. And but there's also a low amount of supply, so there's a lot of opportunities still for you. So you have this increase in people wanting to travel and wanting to book nights, but the supply isn't even up to 2019 levels yet. So as an investor, you still have lots of room. There's still lots of room to grow in that. And so some of this demand is obviously going to depend on you guys, the investors. So you put your feet in and get in the market and do it. So the rates, one interesting thing about short-term rentals is that it's not science. If you go to Marriott or Hilton, they can tell you what the price of that room is going to be to the date. They know exactly what that is. They have 50 years of data. Short-term rentals is a little an evolving industry still, and you have a lot of, like Megan said back, do-it-yourselfers. Vacation rentals by owner, Verbo, it started as owners. Airbnb, hey, rent out your room, do it yourself. It's super simple. It is super simple, but what that does is creates a little bit of fluctuation for what the daily rates are going to be. So having a skilled manager is one thing that you can do to maximize on the daily rates. That there's not a lot of data to you as an individual to do it yourself, but you just can't get data. And so there is data, but you just can't get it. So like Megan and I, with big technology on our side, we have access to real data of actual properties, what they are booking for. We can look at that and help you price your properties competitively to maximize your income. You might have seen when you search for like your vacation home, sometimes you'll see these properties at really low price. And like, oh, this was a deal, must be great. Well, is it a deal, and is it good for the owner also? So those are some of the things we can look at in the market. But here in town, locally, these are actual listings for houses in basically Maricopa County proper. These are known houses, 23 total listings in the metro region. There are probably several more listings beyond that, but those are a lot of do-it-yourselfers, and you can't rely on that. They might jump in and out of the market on a whim. So these are known, managed, and you can see the vast majority here are really in this 3 and 4, 2, 3, the 3 and 4 bedroom is the vast majority of the properties that are available. Sort of less so in the 5s, which is a unique opportunity, I think, because they're very popular. Big family gatherings are actually really popular nationwide for people coming to stay here. They look very well. And then you see most of them are houses. Condos and apartments, townhomes are less booked because a lot of people are coming with families and they want to have that extra space, I think. In a beach market, you would see probably the opposite. You see a lot of condos and townhomes, but here locally you see houses. So listings by city. We have, no surprise probably to most of you, Scottsdale is the leader in listings with over 3,600 listings in the city. City of Phoenix coming in at only 2,000, much lower, and Phoenix is massive. The land mass of Phoenix is much larger than Scottsdale. We're a really compressed size city. But interestingly to me is this Tempe, Gilbert, Mesa, Glendale, a very tiny amount. In my eyes, you see massive oversaturation, and you probably hear anecdotally that it's very competitive to have a rental property in Scottsdale. And so in my estimation, you see a tremendous amount of opportunity in these other cities where there is a very limited amount of short-term rentals. So how much are these occupied? Because it doesn't matter if these places aren't filled up. If your hotel is empty, it's just an abandoned building. So probably also no surprise, you'll see here in this graph that March, we have everything spike up in March. No surprise, probably to most of you, that everyone comes out for the spring weather, spring training, spring break, etc. So you have these occupancy rates that peak up in the 80% sort of citywide. A lot of nice properties are much higher than that. They'll be 100% occupied, but this is everything citywide, the averages, peaking here in March, and it sort of tapers off in the summertime. But it is interesting to me that everything still is above, for the most part, is above 50%. So when you think like, how many days are people in my house? Over half the time, 100% of the time, you will have somebody in your house. Also very interesting to me is that Scottsdale really is the lowest bottoms, and it really has to do with the supply. There's just so much supply in the summertime for the travelers. So overall, year-round, people, we think like, ooh, come here in the summertime. That's because we live here. We all want to go to the mountains. So we all want to get out of town, but that doesn't mean people aren't coming here year-round, and the data supports that people come here all the time. whether it's 118 or not. So how much can I make? All right, so it's cool and really great. Oh, they're here 50% of the time, but what am I making every night that somebody is here? And so again, we see this is the last slide. We had the peak, we bump up in February and March, and then we sort of go back down during the summertime. You hear at the top, Scottsdale, the average daily rate is the highest during the peak season, and during year-round, you have the highest average daily rate. The rest of the sort of metro area cities, they kind of peak at this 300-ish range and then settle into what I think is like a 200 range the rest of the year. I think that's, for a nice property, you will have no problems getting the bottoming out at 200 a night year-round for your average daily rate. So we know how people are coming here. We know that it's going to cost them, $200 to $400 a night. What is every time? How much am I going to get every time someone comes? So the average stay value in the metro area. This is what you're going to get every time someone comes. This is what you'll get as an owner. You're going to be in this like heavy $2,000 to sort of $3,000 range. I think it sort of settles here in the $2,000 mark. This is Gilbert. This is an outlier graph. There's no way that Gilbert's average rate amongst all properties is $6,000. This just has to do because there's not enough properties to create a real great data line. But this is real data. You could be earning $6,000 in the summer in Gilbert. But I think realistically, a realistic expectation is that you can set a generalized winter, spring expectation of this $3,000 range, and then $2,000 would be my baseline, is what I would set every time somebody comes. Every time someone comes, $2,000 in your pocket as an owner. All right, how long do people stay? Because if someone comes one time every month, $2,000, I might as well, it's not worth it to me. That is not worth my time. But if they come multiple times, if I can have someone come several times during the course of the month, okay, now we're talking. That's good, I like that. So here we have what I think the average is kind of this sort of 5 and 6 day range. This Gilbert green graph, again, this is an outlier. And the Glendale, I think, is also, and it just has to do with supply issues. But what I see is a very sort of trend here, right at this 5. So every time someone comes here, they're staying 5 days. And so if I have 50% occupancy and someone stays 5 days, that's 15 days a month, and I get $2,000 every time someone comes. That's $6,000 on an average that I would set as a reasonable baseline for what you could get every month, just as a generalized, but I just think that's a good baseline number, that $6,000 a month is what you could expect. I didn't get $6,000 a month for my long-term rental. I had a long-term rental for a long time. I got $1,400 a month, and guess what? That's only like $16,000 a year. I wish I would have had $6,000 a month. Been a lot better for my vacation fund, let me tell you. So these are the statistics for our metro area, but we want to give you an idea of what does that look like on different size houses. So what's a 3, 4, 5 bedroom house? Because it makes a difference. I really generalize, but this is what you really can expect generally in the East Valley cities and also in the West Valley cities, slightly less, but also very similar to that.
Yes, so here you can see we have a chart. It goes from 3 bedrooms to 6 bedrooms. We did not include 1 to 2 bedrooms because here in the Valley area, 1 to 2 bedrooms don't really make financial sense to do short-term with. In a more luxury market or a beach market, those are going to make complete sense because people will pay tons of money a night to go stay on the beach, right? Here in Phoenix, they don't pay that much to stay in a condo. So we kind of cut those out. And you can see that the lows and there's a low side and a high side here. So for Peter's property that he's talking about where he made $16,000 in a year, it's a 3-bedroom house, he could have been making just under $45,000 a year. And like you said, really good for his vacation fund, right? Like he could go on a lot of trips if he wanted to, right? And then on the high side, if he has a really nice property that's been very nicely renovated and he's priced it properly, he could make $64,000 during the year. So it really depends on the property and what amenities are available, but you're gonna be making a lot of money. Even for a 5-bedroom, which, as Peter mentioned, 5 bedrooms are actually extremely popular here. I have two 6-bedroom properties that are very popular, but 5-bedroom properties are really popular too. So for $76,000 on the low side for a 5-bedroom house, that's amazing money. And so really, like he said, anywhere in the valley, you can pretty much have these generalized numbers. And they do depend too on those management options that I talked about earlier. So on the DIY side, you might be on the lower side just because you're not going to be setting your nightly rates probably as optimal as you could be, and you won't be making as much. And then you might be more closer to the high side if you have a full service company helping you set the rates appropriately for your property, and really maximizing the revenue for you. So one of the biggest questions we get is, where should I buy? People think that's a really simple question. It sounds very simple, very straightforward question, but it really depends on what your goals are for the property that you're buying. So yes, you want to do short-term rental with it, but maybe you want to use it for yourself too. Maybe it's a vacation home for you. So if you live here in Phoenix and you want a vacation home wherever you and your family like to go every year, then you're going to buy where your family likes to vacation. And the nice thing about having the vacation home option too is if you only spend 2 weeks to maybe 2 months, maximum a year at that property, the rest of the time you can rent it out short term, and that will pay for your mortgage and your property taxes. And so it's like a free vacation spot. You don't have to pay to go on vacation anymore. It pays for itself. The other option would be maybe you just want it to be purely an investment property. So you just want to make as much money as you can with that. So you're going to buy something that makes the most sense for that, that's really going to be able to bring the most revenue potential. The other option is to buy someplace that has prestige to it. So as you see, Scottsdale has a very luxury brand that they've built around themselves, and everybody thinks Scottsdale is the place to be. I have to buy in Scottsdale, and that's why you're seeing the oversaturation there. But maybe you're not so concerned about the money, and you just really would like to be able to say, I have a property in Scottsdale, and people really react to that. And then the last thing to consider is, do you want to have a backup option for your property? So maybe down the road you'll decide you don't want to do short-term rental anymore, maybe you want to get out of it for whatever reason, and you want to have a backup option to maybe be successful on the long-term rental market, or you want to be able to sell it quickly so that you have access to the equity to maybe invest in another property. So on top of that, I've mentioned that there are some things that you can look for when you're buying a property that will really affect that revenue potential. So here's a quick list of property characteristics that are highly sought after. Here in Phoenix, there's attractions everywhere. And when I say attractions, I'm talking about things to do, right? So anywhere you go in Phoenix, you're not that far from either hiking or golfing or someplace where they have festivals all the time, concerts. So buying a property that is close to those things can really help you maximize your revenue by getting you really high nightly rates. And people are really looking for updated kitchens and bathrooms, modern homes. They want something that looks very aesthetically pleasing. So if you buy a property that has those features, you can also get more for your nightly rate. And one of the biggest things is finding a short-term friendly area. So HOAs can restrict short-term rentals, and a lot of them have. So paying attention to the HOA, making sure that you're reading the CC&Rs before you purchase the property, and then also talking to the neighbors. So I manage 2 properties up in Sedona. Sedona is very touristy, but the neighbors don't really like short-term rentals, which kind of sounds backwards. But so they have signs in their yard. This is no to short-term rentals, and it can make guests feel uncomfortable. So you don't really want your neighbors to be making your guests feel uncomfortable, because that's going to hurt your bottom line overall and the reviews that you get on your property.
So aside from where are we located, here are some things that you just might want when you purchase. I'm just going to highlight a couple of these. USB ports make it easy for people to charge their cell phones. We heard this from one of the executives at Verbo. He said, I know this is silly. Make it so that people don't have to move furniture to charge their cell phones. So a simple thing. And put a blender, because who doesn't love a margarita with their chips and salsa while they're sitting by their fire pit, right? So just little things that don't seem like a big thing, turn out to actually increase your revenue. It's those little things that really make the difference in this business.
Yeah, so if you want top dollar for your property, we've already talked about several things here, but really, people when they are booking a place, they're looking at the photos, they really want something that is aesthetically pleasing inside and out, different from their everyday homes, right? They want to maybe feel like they're staying in a more luxurious location, maybe a little resort style there. You're going to use the decor to make them feel warm and welcome, and the amenities that you have, right, that Peter just went over. Those are good. Unique is good. You want to set yourself apart from any other properties in the area. And also photos, giving them an idea of what the layout of the house is. People really like to know what they're getting before they actually get there. And then the last thing, which a full service management company can really help you get, is 5-star reviews. So everybody loves reading reviews. We all do it when we're purchasing products, services, everybody's looking at reviews. So the more 5-star reviews you have on your property, the more likely people are going to be booking that property. And a full service company is really going to reach out to guests and ask them to review properties and review those guests back to help entice them to review back. And as you get more and more reviews, your bookings are just going to snowball from there. You can get higher nightly rate once your property has a lot of reviews on it, and people love reading those to hear how great an experience they can have at your property.
So I'm going to show you, just to give you an idea, what is earning potential in the sort of Phoenix metro area. And these are not necessarily managed by us, but these are just examples of what your potential is. What you guys see down here, so what is sort of the earning potential of these properties? This is in, like, right just north of ASU. You could, for these 3-bedroom houses, $90,000, but you can see the backyards are beautiful. Makes you want to be there. We're feasting with our eyes when we're booking, and if you're thinking about investing. Downtown, historic home. I mean, this house looks historic, and it's getting the top dollar that you can get in that part of the town. Just a 2-bedroom house, $45,000, but it looks exactly what it says it is. This, going out to the west side, this is a house in Goodyear. It's just right off the freeway. It's nothing special, not a special neighborhood. $100,000 in Goodyear. But man, this backyard looks amazing to hang out in. Here in Gilbert, where a lot of you probably live, is just 3-bedroom houses. This, I mean, wouldn't you want to sit on that patio having that margarita with the chips and salsa? This house is going to book because it's beautiful. This is how, and you can, I don't know if you guys notice the theme. These are all pools, Arizona houses. Guess what puts you over the top, really, is pools. And look at this one. This is a Mesa. This isn't like Las Sendas or anything. It's just a beautiful house in Mesa. Closing in on almost $200,000 for earning potential. I just do this in Scottsdale. If you are a super investor, sweet. I love you. I love to be friends with you. You know, you get $800,000 in Scottsdale. It's real. You pay a premium for that. But if you're thinking about what can my clients get in return, but I mean, obviously you expect it's going to be beautiful. But even in Old Town Scottsdale, modern house. I mean, it looks modern exactly. It's beautiful. You can really do well, but it takes skill. It takes work to achieve this potential. You just don't start out, boom, I have $200,000. Do-it-yourselfers, it's very difficult to get to that level. So I don't want to set your expectations false, but the reality is the earning potential is really high for all levels of property all over the city.
Okay, so now that you know about the revenue potential, let's talk a little bit about the expenses. Okay, so you're still going to have to pay your mortgage if you finance your property. If you buy it cash, of course, you're not going to have that, but you're going to have short-term rental insurance that you pay for, your property taxes. You're also going to be paying for any type of maintenance, like routine maintenance, such as landscaping, full service, pest control. And then on the short-term rental side, also you're going to be paying your cleaners or your housekeeping team to come clean your property in between guests, maybe supplying toiletry sets, but definitely supplying consumable items such as paper towels or toilet paper. So there's a lot of things that you have to consider also when you're looking at those big revenue numbers. The nice part is when you have a full service company for you, they take care of some of these things so that you don't have to worry about them. And then the other things that they're not taking care of, you can put on auto pay and you don't even have to think about it. Considerations, yeah. So some of you might have long-term rental properties already. Maybe you've thought about getting into the short-term rental market. How do I do that? What does that look like? What do I need to consider? So as we've been talking about, long-term rental revenue versus short-term rental revenue, very different. Take a look at that. Also look at your monthly fixed costs, such as your mortgage and your utilities and insurance, in addition to the maintenance costs that you're gonna be responsible for. And also for long-term rentals, so for short-term, we've been talking about how aesthetically pleasing properties are really the ones that are gonna be booking. For long-term rental, you don't really have to consider that too much. You're gonna get a tenant, whether it's been updated or not, people are still interested. Unfortunately, on the short-term rental market, that's probably not gonna do very well. Your nightly rate's gonna have to be relatively low. So think about what type of renovations you would have to make, whether it's a kitchen remodel, bathroom remodel, maybe you need to replace the floors in the house to get it up to that standard so that it photographs well and people really enjoy feeling like they're in a luxury space. So just things to consider. And then last is the cost of furnish, which most people know, long-term to short-term, you'd have to buy furniture. We do recommend not buying the cheapest furniture out there because it's going to be used non-stop all of the time. So buy something that is quality but doesn't break the bank, and you will do just fine in the short-term rental space.
Yeah, this one, new kitchen versus painted. I'm remodeling my house right now, and I just decided to paint my kitchen because I didn't think $30,000 new kitchen would return my investment fast enough based on the numbers that I could earn. So, but it's still going to do really well. Other things you guys probably know, but you have to think, what is my business? You're running a business, especially when you're talking about short-term rentals. When you're considering $100,000, it's a really small business. Did I say that right in my mind? Anyway, it's a real business, and you have to just think, like, what are the things I need to be successful in financially setting my situation up? So make sure you ask those questions. Another question, of course, is what's going to happen with their short-term rentals, party houses? You probably never heard of those, but there's a rap that there's a lot of party houses going on, and there are parties that happen at houses, but the vast majority of people are not throwing parties at houses. But the state of Arizona, they have no restrictions on short-term rentals. Will that change? Maybe. It depends. Once Ducey's out of office, I anticipate there will be a change, but you're safe until this election is over. Cities do require you, most cities require you to register your house, and you might have heard the Scottsdale ordinance that has been increased over the last month, that you have to register the house, there has to be a contact person. If there is a complaint against that house, the police are called, you must respond within 1 hour or you face a $500 fine. So there's an argument for do-it-yourselfer. Do you want to be the person that's called for the party house? That's why Megan and I, we love that. It's our favorite thing. We want to be called for the party house, but that's not true because we would put mechanisms in place so you don't have the party house. That's something that you can do when you have full service management, is that you can use technology and other methods through setting up how you set up the ability to rent so that you don't get the loud party houses. Taxes they do vary a little bit by city, but they're mostly the same. Future concerns, unknown. HOAs are the biggest thing though. An HOA can change their mind. So an HOA might say today, yes, you're allowed to do it, and then a bunch of angry neighbors can get together and cancel it, which I think in the islands in Gilbert has just occurred. So sad for a few really profitable houses in there. I'd be pretty irritated if I was an owner. But I think more regulation is the likely outcome because of party houses. But Airbnb is not going away. They are $1 billion company. Everybody loves to go to Airbnb short-term rentals. I stayed in like 5 last year. You guys probably stayed in just as many as me. They are not going away, but governments are going to have to figure out ways to sort of satiate our need to travel and stay in private homes. So I anticipate it'll be more regulations and more barriers to entry, which you'll need sort of like you got a lot of your realtors in here, like you can sell your house, you can all by yourself, but it's sure a lot nicer when you have, Paulina there closing the deal for you, right?
All right, so We've been talking a little bit about full service, and we thought it'd be nice to just go over how do we help our owners that work with us. So we are known for giving them more time, more money, and more attention. So more time because they don't have to deal with all of these things, right? So the guest questions and issues that arise, the scheduling the cleaners, the routine maintenance that needs to be scheduled, and or other home services that need to be scheduled, marketing and listing of the property, and then also the filing of their lodging taxes. So we save them all the time not having to deal with that. The second thing is more money. So how do we get more money for our owners? So we use what's called dynamic pricing, which we use our technology tools that Peter's been referring to help us automatically adjust our rates. So they adjust based on the occupancies in the area, in addition to how far out somebody is booking the property, which really helps maximize your revenue and your occupancy rates. Then we also work by driving guest reviews, which I mentioned earlier with the 5-star reviews, really reaching out to guests, encouraging them to write reviews for us so that we can charge those higher rental rates, right, for our owners. And then we list on 80 plus listing sites. So Peter mentioned Airbnb, Vrbo, we do Booking.com, we're on TripAdvisor. So that is what has led us to our 5 times booking rate nationwide. So that's our average compared to our competitors. We have 5 times the booking rate. And then this is just showing you all of our activities. So we're on social media, driving guests to our properties. We're also doing search engine optimization and retargeting to drive them back, and then all of those listing sites that we utilize. And then the next thing that we do is we bring more attention, right? So what happened during the pandemic was a lot of people couldn't even get in touch with the property managers. They're like, what's going on? It was a very stressful time for people. Nice thing about iTrip Vacations is we're here, we're local, and we're the owners. When you give us a call, you're either going to get Peter or you're going to get me. There's no call center. You're not dealing with a representative of the company that's just going to keep pushing you off and, oh, we'll get back to you later about that. We're going to handle whatever your issue is or whatever your questions are. On top of that, we do checkout inspections on all of our space. So when somebody checks out, we go to the house, we check for damages. We also submit for any damage claims if we need to, which is another way we save people more time because we handle all of that and you don't have to worry about it. But we make sure that the house still looks like it did when the guests arrived there and that it's ready for the next guest. So you get those 5-star reviews. And then we do offer free light maintenance. I don't like to say it's free, but it says free. It's more like at cost light maintenance. So if you need an air filter change, we'll change the air filter. We do the HVAC filters, we do the fridge filters, light bulbs, batteries. We'll even replace like a toaster or coffee maker. You're just gonna pay whatever we pay to go get that for you. We don't charge trip fees to do that. We don't have labor fees for that. And we don't upcharge on what we're buying for you. A lot of companies will nickel and dime you and charge you for all of that. And then we talked about quick response times, and then the boutique level of service, of course, is that you get me and Peter. And we're here for you for all of your needs, any of your questions that you might have.
So that's our overview of introduction to everything you ever want to know about short-term rentals in the Phoenix metro area especially.